Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second Fide Grand Prix in Belgrade, Serbia. By the way, some of you in the comments have been saying it's pronounced Belgrade. That's not how it's pronounced. Technically, it's pronounced Belgrade, but I'm saying Belgrade, so I'm kind of more right than you are. Anyway, I didn't plan to start this recap by arguing with an imaginary counterpart, but today we are going to look at the last two games of the preliminary stage, and we're going to say goodbye to 12 grandmasters for whom the tournament is over. Yeah, we're going to move on with 4 into the semifinals, which is why the video is called what it's called. Now, there's going to be a lot of really fun games. I've got 5 games for you. We're going to determine the seeding and the standing of each section. And that's it. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I'm recording this on a Monday, so what better way to get your week started than with Gotham content? Now, we have e4 from Alexei Shirov versus Vladimir Fedoseev, and we have a main line open Sicilian with e5. So a Sveshnikov Sicilian defense being played with the black pieces by Vladimir Fedoseev. This is one of Magnus Carlsen's most potent weapons. He absolutely loves to play this with black. And this battleground in the Sveshnikov was where all of the World Championship took place in Magnus versus Fabiano. So, yeah, and their bishop g5 is a main line, but the second main line is knight d5, and Fabiano did go for this as well, and they paved the way for hundreds, if not thousands, of games of theory after this. So takes. Black can play knight b8 or knight e7. Both of these retreating moves are actually fine. White restructures in the center like this. And in this position, Fedoseev plays knight f5, so they're following kind of a main line, but here he plays g6. The overwhelming main line in this position is bishop e7, about 500 out of maybe 700 games. Black puts the bishop on e7, and that is how black develops. Fedoseev plays g6. The point of g6 is that he's going to put his bishop on g7. That's the point. It's a different way of developing the pieces, which obviously sends the game into a separate direction completely. Actually, Fedoseev played like this. In fact, he played all of these moves up to this point against a grandmaster named Ernesto Inorkiev, who is one of the only players in the Russian Chess Federation who I know has a first name of Spanish origin. Ernesto, I think, right? Inorkiev. Anyway, and that was their game, and I believe in that game, White took on f5, and no, I think maybe there was queen b3. But in this game, Shirov took on f5, and the players were following a game here between Parham Maksudlu and, I forgot his name, an international master from, I think, Egypt. My Egyptian chess fans, please help me out. It was played in the Sharjah Masters in 2021, and that game went rook c8, queen a4, queen d7, and the players went into a game with no queens. But in this game, we have queen b3, and we have a brand new position. So queen b3 very simply targets the pawn on b7. Fedoseev very simply completely disregards the pawn on b7 because the rook on f1 is worth more. So the rook moves and Fedoseev plays e4. So the point here is that this bishop is really annoying. If you go and finish the quest of taking this pawn, I will go here, here, and come down and take on b2. But I might even delay that. I might even not take on, oh, that's not what I'm going to do. I might even not take on b2. I might play like f5. And f5 is just ready to go like this. Queen g5, f3. And because your queen's just sort of just doing, I don't know what the heck, the queen just went to the spa for the entire day. I don't know, just vibing over there on a6, you know, getting nails done, which is all good, but not in the middle of battle. Yeah, I mean, you know, this queen's going to come over here and chop this king's head off. So, yeah, the Shirov doesn't do that. Instead, he plays c5, and Fedoseev here chooses to still play f5. So even though the players are castled on the same side, it almost feels like they're not. It feels like White is ready to do some serious damage over here, but Black is ready as well. This bishop is an absolute stud. Look at him. The bishop on g7, also a killer. Every piece is going to be useful in this game. Shirov takes on d6. Fedoseev continues with f4, and we have bishop b6 attacking the queen. Now, any normal person here plays queen takes d6 because you just got to deal with those pawns before you like go over to g5. You got to deal with these pawns. Queen takes d6 really should be played. Except queen g5. Except, as it turns out, Fedoseev is not normal. He's not normal. He's also a creative genius, and he came to play, right? And his entire idea is to play, is to play f3 and deliver a mate. That is what we're here to see. Here, Shirov has one move, and it has nothing to do with this side of the board. This is his move, d7. In the middle of battle, don't move your bishop, your queen, your knight, or your rooks. Just threaten to make another queen. Threaten to make another queen. Also take away squares from your opponent's pieces, and maybe even d6. Maybe the idea of d7 is actually to push the next pawn to d6, for example. Just so you understand. Check, king h7, and trade queens. You see, the queen for black is the most powerful attacking piece, so trade it off. So d6, d7 is incredible. f3, d6 check, king h8, and white obviously has to save mate. It was check, so you couldn't deliver a mate. Fedoseev continues to try to deliver a mate. Shirov just in time. I mean, just literally just in time. And if you play bishop h6, I check you and I'm just in time to get to your king. So Shirov is unable to deliver any sort of fatal blow. Fedoseev is unable to deliver a fatal blow. So he goes back to d7. Now, once again, any normal person here defends this pawn. Plays queen d5, plays rook c7, but in a battle like this, time is of the essence, and Shirov knows he has to sacrifice the pawn. You would think this is his most prized possession. Why would he part with a pawn that was 2 squares away from becoming a queen? Well, because sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, in the middle of an attack, you play a move where you realize your opponent is losing on the battleground of time. All this going backwards by this queen is going in the wrong direction. And all white has to do is consolidate. And the attack is about to come in full force. But first, sliding back with the bishop. This is beautiful. I mean, just absolutely beautiful understanding here by Shirov. Rook c1, bishop a5. He has the luxury of those moves, and he is ready to take on b7 and get in a second rook. This bishop will come to c3, remove the anchor of the black position, and he's going to win the game. And Fedoseev tries his absolute hardest. By the way, queen d1, not a mate, right? He's trying his absolute hardest here. Rook c2, I don't think is the most accurate move. I think taking on c8 and bishop c3 was better. But just understanding that this entire purpose here, to reroute the bishop and infiltrate on the 7th rank and cover the king's escape with the queen, is how Shirov won this game. Fedoseev resigns. For example, bishop takes c3 is met with the absolutely incredible queen f7. And that's it. You just can't stop mate or a catastrophic loss of material. All the while, the amount of times in this game, visually, that white was mated, but not basically, one thing covering a mate, so many times. There was so many back rank problems potentially brewing, right? Rook d8, the queen is still covering the back rank with the knight. Bishop comes back to cover rook c1, and queen f7 would have sealed the deal. And again, complete coverage here by the knight on the 2 checkmating squares. Amazing game. Next game that I have for you is the game between Vidit Gujarati and Richard Rapport. This game basically decides Group C, so the winner of this game will most likely qualify for the knockout. So we have a French defense, an advanced French with c5, c3. This is generally known to be completely okay for black, like black is known to equalize here. But it's an interesting battleground. There might be some fresh ideas backed by engines, and Rapport chooses to play queen b6 and not knight c6, which adds more pressure to the middle, but bishop d7. The point of bishop d7, as absurd as it looks, is to deal with this bishop. The bad light-squared bishop in the French defense, which generally is unable to move too many squares. You trade in the middle, and you play bishop b5, and white has nowhere to go. White's got to just deal with this bishop. So normally what GMs do here is they castle. And then like bishop e2, queen e2, and then, life goes on. Chess gets played. Black just simply no longer has a light-squared bishop. But Vidit chooses to deal with it like this and play this move a4. Now this has almost never been seen, but it's very much engine supported. So Vidit once again showing tremendous opening preparation. The point here is that, if you give white an extra move, white's going to go knight b5. So you're just going to go in here and win. then this queen is completely blocked out of the game. The other reason that white is not playing something like queen e2 is that this is exactly what black wants. Now black just simply has no problems. And this structurally is a bit suspicious for white. So, and the reason I keep looking over here is there's one other game going on that I will fill you in as it concludes. I generally don't make my recaps as other games go on, but this game had a completely decisive evaluation, and now it's completely flipping. No spoilers, though. So a4, bishop b4 prevents the knight from moving, bishop d2, and yeah, as you can see, Rapport is just desperately trying to not allow white to castle. That is sort of what he's trying to do here to bother the white position. We have b4, so b4 is obviously trying to play b5, so he slides in his queen so b5 doesn't occur. Rook c1. Anywhere the bishop moves attacks the queen, but Rapport is not really concerned. He actually doesn't really think that it's scary at all. And is he right? For example, if you play bishop d2, right? I mean, I can just play queen d3. If you play bishop b2, I just take on b4. You have no moves. Knight d2 doesn't make any sense because queen d3 is played. Pause. Knight d2. Knight d2 is a winning idea for white. Knight d2 is winning. Move 15, knight d2 wins for Fide, right here. What? So if queen a6, b5, self-explanatory. What about queen d3? I don't understand. Well, you can't go b5, right? Because knight d4. You can. Knight d2, b5, knight d4, and white to play and win in this position. You can pause if you'd like. I mean, this is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen in my life. h4. Rook h3 is coming, and there's nothing black can do about it. Black's queen and knight are completely trapped, and black is going to lose material. For example, if you try to save your knight, you lose your queen. I mean, the queen literally just gets trapped, suffocated to death in the middle of the white position. I've honestly, I mean, it's a completely absurd variation, like, because naturally, after knight c6, this is a move that provides danger, like, in the maximum capacity, but you just never think b5, h4. You just never think it. I mean, b5, knight d4, h4, maybe black can even sack and go for a 3-pawn position, but it's losing. Not to mention the fact that I don't even have to take, I have this, which is even more savage. And Vide's winning the game here, but he misses it. Completely winning on move 15. Vide misses his opportunity, and instead tries to go for a queenless position. Rapport's like, no, I need my queen to bully you, castles knight f5, and rook c8. So Fide has advanced almost every one of his pawns. Rapport has advanced almost none of his pawns. Most of his pawns are in the back rank, and, well, starting rank. And what I will say about this position, and what I just said a little bit earlier, in the French advance, if white doesn't completely storm black with the space advantage, white strategically has a disaster of a position. Why? Dark squared bishop and a bunch of dark squared pawns, right? This pawn is a permanent target. Look at this pawn. It has no pawn supporting it, so it's a permanent target. Right? So you're just going to be massively overextended. So g4, bishop d2, and now Rapport says, I'm not going to castle. I'm playing h5. I am looking to remove this pawn so I can put my knight back on f5. You take, queen takes a4. I'm scooping up the queenside pawn. My queen is still hanging out. I don't care. You could do whatever you want. Go and take my pawn over here. Go and do it. Queen back to f5. This position for Rapport looks nothing short of ridiculous. And yet he's better. Rapport is simply better because of the long-term liability that this position shows for white. Notice how Rapport is untangled. Notice how Rapport, by the way, has his king can't move. His king is surrounded, but nobody in the white position can deliver a fatal blow. It looks like you're going for queen b5, queen f1, queen b1, just in time. And if you play knight e1 here, I take your bishop. So you have to block with something, queen or bishop. Now the queens are off. He takes on b6, and Rapport's position is defended perfectly. Every infiltration square is covered. Rapport is up 2 pawns, actually. It only feels like 1 pawn, and he will have to give one of them back, but he consolidates effortlessly. Folks, what is the common denominator in the black position? Who has not moved? As Rapport looks to clear out the remainder of the pawns and win this game. Who has not moved in the black position? Have you ever seen something like this? Rapport he's just cleaning up. This is what we call cleaning up. He's cleaning up his knights, his rook, his pass, d-pawn. He takes... Folks, what is the common denominator? Who has not moved? The black king. The black king hasn't moved. It takes 54 moves for his king to move. Report won this game by using everybody and protecting his king. Incredible. I mean, and in the middle of being dead lost on move 15. Shocking game. And obviously, as you can see, I mean, one guy has 3 extra pawns. Report is proving to be some sort of kryptonite for Fide. Fide has played some incredible chess. This is a really flashy final move, by the way. If you take, you lose your rook. If you move away, I take your bishop, right? So Fide resigns. Fide loses 2 games in the preliminary stage, and they're both to Report. Report beats him with white and with black, but Fide was winning in this game. Tragedy. A tragic ending to the group stage for Fide, and Report is the man who qualifies. He has made it through to the semifinals, I believe, for the 2nd time, right? Because last time it was Hikaru versus Report. Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely massive. Credit to Report, who has had 2 very good Grand Prix runs. I feel like Report, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, I feel like Report is one of the most underappreciated super GMs we have right now. This guy is top 10 in the world, and I feel like we just don't talk about him a whole lot. The next game that I have for you is from Group B. This is a very important matchup. It's Vityugov versus Giri. Vityugov has to beat Giri, so that's it. So if he doesn't beat Giri, Giri is the semifinalist. If Vityugov is able to defeat him, then he has to play him in a playoff tomorrow. We have a symmetrical English. And nowadays, the players don't just copy each other. They're not like, 7-year-olds who are like, hey, I'm copying you. My students used to do this. Like, my student would get copied and then get angry at their opponent for copying them. No, Giri attacks the middle. So he plays e6, d5. And we have a very interesting position. We have a reverse Caro-Kann. I know sometimes I mention this and you guys get really confused. You see how white has lost the c-pawn and black has lost an e-pawn? So we basically have this position. Take, c4, like this. g6, knight f3. But we have this on the opposite side, right? So we have the complete opposite, which is mirror image. 2 knights, and a fianchetto here for white. Very interesting. Now, Vityugov comes prepared to this game. He plays a move that's almost never been played. It's been played a few times, but it's almost never been played, and that move is a3. It's the 2nd choice of Stockfish. Normally, white just develops with bishop g2. a3 is designed to obviously prevent any sort of bishop excursion over on here. To b4, to c5, etc. We have cd4, bishop c5, and now bishop e3. The players are following barely any games here, queen d2, and we are officially in brand new territory. Now, Anish here spends 30 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. He spends 30 minutes, not like locked in the bathroom. He spends 30 minutes calculating because there are many options. Black can play bishop e6. Black can probably play bishop g4. Black can probably play knight g4. Black can play knight a5 to go here and try to look at these squares. Rook e8 doesn't look completely unreasonable. I mean, there are so many possibilities. What do? You have to not lose. So he goes for knight a5. Vityugov blitzes out rook d1. Knight c4, and we have this. Vityugov planned all of this. Black spends all this time dancing with the knight. For what? To leave himself with an isolated d-pawn that will be a target for the remainder of this game. Right? We have rook e8, queen f4. At this point, after bishop g4 and castles, Vityugov is up nearly 1 hour on the clock. So this is looking very bad for Giri. I mean, this is not a situation you want to find yourself in. Still in your opponent's preparation, right? Drastic time difference. And there's a move that occurs here that's just unbelievably strange. Bishop takes d4. That's not the strange move. Bishop takes e2, attacking this rook. Now, here white can play rook e1 attacking the bishop, rook c1 looking for the open file. There is also this move, bishop takes d5. If this, there is check. Right, that's the idea. Vityugov plays the top engine move, clearly still in his preparation, rook b1. Now, listen, I don't know a whole lot about Nikita Vityugov. I assume that as a father, he is a father of a young child. He is a very strong player. I assume that he doesn't have time to spend watching meme clips of chess on YouTube, aka rook b1. So I don't think he played this move with that in mind. This move has a point. The point is that black wants to go here and shut the center down. And this will allow white to play b3. That is the entire difference between rook c1 and rook b1. Bishop c4 defends everything here, whereas rook b1 moves the rook to a place where bishop c4 is not possible. That's what I think. However, Anish now has to find all the stockfish moves to hold the game. Rook c8, top stockfish move. Vityugov now has to choose which way to take on d5. He's got to win his pawn back. Otherwise, he just pawn down. He chooses to take with a knight. We have knight d5. Anish once again finds the top engine move. Not that difficult, but looking for a queen trade, right? Rook e1. Still a borderline unpleasant endgame. Cool, calm, and collected. Rook protects everything on the 7th rank. Rook c4. Very tricky and flashy move. If you take, you get mated. If rook c4 I take, then you're going to lose your bishop. Rook c2, b6. And folks, the final, most important move that Anish has to play, bishop g4. Danger levels. Rook is hanging, but so is that one. Protected by the rook that's hanging. We have a trade. And finally, Anish can breathe a sigh of relief as he has completely symmetrical structure. And the players agree to a draw in this position. Now, yes, Vityugov has to win this game, but you're not going to beat Anish in this position unless you have like a shovel and you can actually physically assault him. Completely symmetrical position. It's just not going to work. And Anish Giri is our second semifinalist. So congratulations to him. Next game that I have for you is this matchup in Group D. Same situation. Shakhriyar Mamedyarov has to defeat Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. If they make a draw, or Maxim wins, he's going to win Group D. So here we go. D4, knight f6. We have, whoa, MVL doesn't play the Grunfeld. MVL is a guy who plays the Grunfeld, but seems like he has a couple of tricks up his sleeve. And one of those tricks seems to be the fact that when he's trying to hold and stabilize, he's going to play a Queen's Gambit decline. So we have a Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. This is considered the optimal version for white because white has not put the knight on f3. In these positions, it's well known that white likes to play e3, f3, and try to play e4 by putting the knight on e2, etc. So e3, queen c2, this prevents the bishop from coming to f5, bishop d3, and MVL chooses not to just play, castles and kind of normal-looking moves. He plays knight h5. He is going immediately after this bishop. And now, Shach plays knight f3. Why? What is the point of playing like this? Why would you give up your bishop pair, leave yourself a stranded pawn in the middle of the board? Shach has to win. Shach is playing this game like a gentleman who needs to win the game. The point is that at some point, Shach will go long. There it is. This is how you play a Queen's Gambit declined for a must-win game. The problem is that when you play for a must-win game, so does your opponent. You inadvertently drag your opponent into a bloodbath, and here comes b5. So MVL is a principled man. He's like, listen, you're going long. I'm going to obviously play b5. I have to attack you as well. Shach puts his knight into the middle of the board. MVL doesn't want his pawn on c6 taken. And Shach moves his king out of the way to b1. Generally, when you castle long, it's always good to play king b1. If anything, you can even completely reverse the situation. So, for example, you can play like knight e2, rook c1, and all of a sudden it's like you're actually attacking on two sides of the board, right? Knight b6, and MVL wants knight c4. Sometimes knight c4 supported by the queenside pawns is so strong, you can even play it like this. Not right now, but you can even do something like this because the b file opens, and it's terrifying stuff. So this is a very potent attacking position here. Now, there are many normal-looking moves here for white. g4, g5. Hit the target. You have to hit the target in front of the king to force it open. Shach plays rook g1. I don't hate this move. Obviously, the point here is to go like this. He wants g4, g5. It's about to come. It's about to be a cannonball down the g file. b4. MVL's right there. All right, we're trading, but MVL's right there. He's not letting Shach breathe. If Shach goes g4 now, here comes c4. You think you're still attacking. No, sir, you're not. You think you're still attacking. Bishop takes e5. Where is the attack? Where's the attack? Like, let's say you take. Oops. How are you going to attack when that same queen from a couple of games ago that's still at the spa gets arrested for trying to rob the spa? Have you been paying attention in this recap? I feel like the queen just got stranded on the opposite side of the board. So that just doesn't work at all. So c5, Shach still has to deal with this on this side of the board. And he says, all right, you know what? To hell with this. Let's go for queens and bishops. My queen is still going to harass MVL, right? I'm still looking for different sacrifices. f5 is coming. h4, h5 is coming. And he has a good position. Actually, he has the exact position that he wants. MVL plays, b3. b3. What? If you sack ba2, so what? In this position, black has the absolutely cold-blooded bishop f8, allowing a discovered check. Because if you allow a discovered check, I go here, and all of a sudden, It's not my king who's in danger. It's yours, you SOB. It's a movie moment. Unbelievable stuff, right? Parents, you'll have to come up with a family-friendly acronym for SOB. All right, go ahead before your kids ask you. Crazy stuff here. And the attack continues, right? So Shaks tries to close everything up and play F5, and MVL has one and only one move. He has to find this move. It's not the hardest move in the world to find, but it's G5. The reason why it's not the hardest move in the world to find is because he glues the G5 pawn shut, right? And this is still here. Takes, Rook G2 covers anything on the C2 square. Shak is ready with H4. There it is. I mean, he's ready. I don't know how you're supposed to defend this position with black. Queen E3, Rook E2, you gotta go. You gotta get out of here. That's it. MVL's position's gonna fall apart. Or is it? Look at what MVL does. Rook C1. Sometimes the best defense is offense. Sacrificing his rook, deflecting a check into the queen, King A1, and now the very cool, calm and collected Queen A6. Threatening. Check. This bishop laser beams the king. White has absolutely nothing better than King B1, Queen D3, and a repetition of moves. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave does not play the queen's game but declined. But Maxime Vachier-Lagrave doesn't care what he plays with black. He is a dynamic attacker and counter-attacker. He is excellent at finding counterplay, and he finds it just in time before his kingdom collapses, holding the game, saving the half point. I mean, he wasn't like in dire trouble, but saving the half point, and MVL is our semi-finalist from Group D. Congratulations to MVL. And that takes me to our final game of the day. Folks, this game was absolutely nuts. I should have told you in the introduction to stay around for this game. But if you made it this far and you didn't click out after 26 minutes, you should be proud of yourself because you are going to get rewarded for your efforts. This is a game between Dimitri Andreykin and Etienne Bacrot. Dimitri Andreykin has 3 points. Sam Shanklin has 3 points. Bacrot has 2.5. What do you do in this situation? Bacrot can go all out for the win, but instead he chooses the strategy of playing the Queen's Gambit accepted into a classical main line. His logic, if Dimitri Andreykin tries to play for a win, I will punish him. If Dimitri Andreykin tries to play solidly, maybe he won't qualify. You know, maybe a win is not good enough. Knight D2. In this position, there are maybe 50,000 games played, and in this position, there are like 3. So normally, white plays like just about everything under the sun except for Knight D2. I mean, white can literally play basically anything. Knight D2 is almost never played, but it shows you how flexible the position truly is, right? So there is just, I mean, there's so much flexibility. Just simply so much flexibility. So CD4. Bishop C5, knight back to B3. I think there was a game recently that I saw with B3, played in actually the tournament that I played in recently, but Bishop E7, B5, and we have A4. Generally speaking, if black overextends on this side of the board, there will be some A4 coming at some point, and I mean, it just simply looks like white has a very nice position. White's got a target on A6. White's got good potential control of queenside squares. And in general, these positions look very depressing with black, I have to say. I never enjoyed playing these positions with black. But Bacrot is very good, and I'm not. So Bacrot's going to sit there and wait for an opportunity. Knight C6. Knight D2, Knight D5. We have a little horsey dance. The knight jumps around. Bishop D2. Queen B8. Defending. Preparing to bring the rook. Bishop B5. Okay, we have our first exchange. We have bishop takes bishop and queen takes bishop. If anybody's actually making progress, it looks like the guy playing with the black pieces. I mean, I don't really know what white has accomplished here at all. But that's the thing. The position's completely in the balance. There are many possibilities for both sides. So we move the queen out. Now we play queen B3. And we kind of have a stalemate here. The knights, the queens, a little bit of a stalemate. Queen C7, knight DF3. If you really were to ask me what the hell is going on, I have no idea. I mean, it's like one guy's like, wait, you know, it's like two dudes. You ever seen those videos? Yo, swing first. Like 2 dudes trying to fight, but telling the other to swing first. It's like, what's going on? Hold me back, bro. No one has to. You're not punching, right? So Rook B8. That move, however, allows white to get a quick initiative. Rook C1. Queen slides out of the way. Now E4. These 2 moves force black's position to kind of slide back. Knight C6. So he does in flashy style and opens the door for pure savagery by Dimitri Andreykin. There is something he can do here. He can take this, rook b3, rook d6, bishop d6, and take the knight. So he does have this option to enter a position where he will get into an endgame with knight and bishop versus rook. However, Dmitry Andrekin sacrifices his queen. He takes queen b8. This can take, this can take, this can take, but only one is good. You have to undevelop your knight, because if you take with the queen, then I take this, and I take this as well. If you take with the rook, I take rook c6, then I take this as well. So you actually have to move that knight out of the way. But that allows, hello, bishop f8. Have you ever seen something like this? Where a rook stands on the same rank as 4 enemy pieces, but one guy has an extra queen. So Andrekin's going for it, right? ed5, ed5, and here Bacrot has many options. Like he can play f6, apparently he can even play a5, but really the option is, what is he going to take back with on d5? He has ed5 or queen d5. He loses the game. E takes d5 apparently loses the game for white. And it has, for black. White is now winning. Dmitry Andrekin, it came true. His pressure paid off. He is now winning. He can win this game by bringing his rook to the e file. And apparently black has no moves. Remember what Shirov did where he just calmly brought a rook? Black has no moves. What do you do? Like, let's say you try to activate knight d3, rook here. If you play rook e7, okay, I take, you have to take, I win your knight. Or even better, bishop b4. I win everything. I just realized you also have bishop b4 because of knight d3. So, rook e1 wins the game. Dmitry doesn't find it. Dmitry plays rook c1. He misses this idea, and this allows black to immediately kick the knight out. The knight goes to c6. If you take, I will take on a8. Bacrot believes in that, so he plays a5. Apparently, knight c6 was still the best move. a5, but now rook d8. Apparently here, knight back to d4. Again, just freezing the black position, nowhere to go. All right, next idea is to slide the rooks out of the way. But Andrekin plays rook d8, queen c7, and does it this way. It's very difficult to back out of a position. Well, now queen b7, but now he loses the a5 pawn. And from this point forward, it's almost full guess the elo style. 0.00 evaluation right now. Queen takes b2, knight back to b3. Now black is better, almost winning, with the absolutely savage king f7. All right, if nobody can move, the king's gonna move. The king just walks out of there. All right, cool guys don't look at explosions. The king just goes f7, g6. I'm out. Bye. All right, I'm out of here. I'm good, you know? Bishop f4, bishop b4. What are these knights doing? What are any of these white pieces doing if they're not actually attacking the king? The king's just going to hide on g6. He's going to be completely fine. Bacrot is about to win this game and he's going to be a semifinalist. His heart is probably pounding, or maybe he's going to qualify to play Sam Shankland, right? Maybe he might play a playoff tomorrow. Rook c7 check, king g6, just like he planned. That's it. It's -5. Everything has come true. Bacrot has untangled. He just has to clean everything up. Rook g8. We're going after this g7 pawn. But he can just take on a5. It doesn't matter. You can take on g7. The king just walks out to f5. Knight takes a5. But there's a catch. This is a free piece. But you can also run with your king one more time, hitting the bishop and continuing the pressure here. The game is over if you play king f5. It's over because something like bishop c1, queen b4, I'm threatening mate. And then I'm going to win your knight. The game is over. King f5 ends the game on the spot. Bacrot takes on a5. He is still winning. But the next move must come as a shock. g4. And all of a sudden, his king has no moves. His king has absolutely no moves. g4, there is no more back rank mate. Rook g7 is mate. Oh my god, is Andrekin winning? What has Bacrot done? Is Andrekin winning? Black has to play f5. That is the only way. Black has to play f5. Rook b8 can come if you take its check and I win your queen, but then you have check, king g2, and rook a6 protecting the king. Bacrot has to play f5. It's the only move. Instead, he plays knight d7. So he sacrifices the knight. And his idea after rook takes d7 was queen b1 check. In this position, f5 once again saves the day by the smallest of margins, and the king runs. You have to play f5, but Bacrot sees queen b1 check, king g2, queen e4, and he realizes he's losing. How? How did we just go from -5 to a losing position? It's losing because after check and check, I don't have to block. I walk out to h4. My king walks out like this, like Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes in the movie A Game of Shadows. They walk out onto the balcony for one final duel to determine the winner, and that's it. The rook and the queen cannot get to the king. Rook g7 is a mate. Back row, in tragic fashion, resigns, and Andrejkin wins Group A, and he is a semi-finalist. Insanity. Completely insane game. A perfect game for back row, who hung in there from a slight hiccup and actually defended and created winning chances for himself. But disaster strikes. King f5 here, the clutch move, but also f5. Finding the right sequence after f5, he doesn't find it. Dmitry Andrejkin wins, and it's Dmitry Andrejkin qualifying. It's Anish Giri qualifying. It's Richard Rapport qualifying, and it's Maxime Vachier-Lagrave qualifying. It is over. I'll see you all tomorrow for the knockouts.